Hi everyone, this is Ravi. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is our lesson 11 on Katalon automation tool concepts. In my previous two sessions, I've concentrated on the generic topics of API automation. How can we perform API automation by using Katalon automation tool? And we have taken the sample REST services and we performed automation by using sample REST services, and also we have performed automating some of the validations by using sample REST services. So basically we are concentrating on automating the REST services as a sample test cases. So in this session I'm going to teach you how can we automate the SOAP services, not the REST services, SOAP services. So I'm going to show you some examples of SOAP services. I'm going to take an example of SOAP WSDL, and then how can we convert SOAP WSDL into SOAP request messages, and how can we automate SOAP request messages, and how can we perform validation of SOAP responses, right? All these concepts I'm gonna teach you in this lesson. It's very important session. I'm gonna teach you all basic concepts and advanced concepts of SOAP request automation. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon. You'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Thank you. Okay, so in this session, I'm going to teach you how can you set up API testing project in general, and then how can you add SOAP web service requests, and how to create a SOAP API test case by using the SOAP web service request that you added in previous step. And also I'm going to teach you how can you add web service keywords and validations for a given SOAP request message, and how to validate the values in SOAP response, and also how can you use inbuilt snippets option that is provided by Katalon, which will be writing the Groovy language, right? So I'm going to teach you all these concepts with an example by using Katalon automation tool. So now, without delaying, let's jump onto the system and see how can we perform all these actions. Okay, so this is my Katalon tool. Okay, so where we'll start automating the SOAP UI, SOAP services. Okay, so before we start working by using Katalon, let me show you sample WSDL file that I'm gonna use. Okay, so this is my sample WSDL file which I'm gonna use in automating the SOAP services. So this WSDL file has, let me show you how many operations this WSDL file has. If you add an extension called, let me go to the extensions. I have added an extension called Whistler. So if you go to Google, Whistler Chrome extension, and then you can add Whistler Chrome extension to your extensions. Okay, as I already added, it's showing me remove from Chrome, but if you don't add, it's going to show you add to Chrome. Okay, so I already added that Whistler extension. If I click on this Whistler extension, it's going to show you how many operations that are present in this Whistler file. So if you see, this is my SOAP 1 service, 1.3 version, and if you see, this is 1.2. So I'm going to use only one SOAP 1 service. Okay, so if you see, these are all the operations that we have under this SOAP WSDL service. So let's go back to our Katalon project, Katalon tool. Okay, and so it's highly recommended to watch my previous two sessions, session 9 and session 10, to understand the concepts very well. Okay, so as we did earlier, as we automated the REST services in my previous videos, the process or procedure will be more or less similar, but there are some differences. Okay, so first, to automate any service, you need to add the corresponding service or a SOAP request into an object repository. Okay, so for that, go to object repository, right click, and then click on new and web service request. So here, let's name this as country service, country service. And under country info service, under country info service, okay, before this, let me do one thing. Let me create a new folder first. Okay, let me create a new folder to organize our object repository. I'm going to create a new folder stating that SOAP services. Okay, I created a folder. Under this folder, now I'm going to add the SOAP web service request. Country info service. Under country info service, I'm going to take an operation called country currency. Okay, so let's put COUN country currency. Okay, and what is the URL? So the URL, WSDL URL is this. Copy this, paste it here, click OK. So as soon as you click OK, it's going to add and it's going to create a web service request. If you see, I already have WSDL service, and what is the method that I'm using? I'm using get method because I'm going to get the country currency information. Okay, and here, if you see here, you have HTTP body, HTTP request. Oh, sorry. Basically, when I am adding this, I have not selected SOAP service. Okay, so if you see here, let me delete this again. How to delete the service? Delete here, and then again let me add. Okay, because I want to show you a very important concept here. Right click, add web service, name this as country info country currency, because I am performing the operation of country currency, and then use the WSDL here. If you see here, earlier we selected the request type as REST. Now you need to select the request type as SOAP. So you need to provide, you can provide description or you need not to provide description. Click on OK. So now it's going to create your REST request, not SOAP request. If you see here, I can see WSDL URL, and then if you see the request message here, request message body and authorization. Okay, and here if you click on this load service function, it's going to load all the functions that are available in this WSDL. What are all the functions it available? All these functions. Okay, just click on load service function. It's going to load all the operations or all the functions. If you see here in the drop down, see, these are all the functions available. Okay, I'm gonna select country currency. And what is the country currency? Let's go to country currency here. As soon as you select country currency, I can see the post method here. What is the post method URL? Copy that URL and paste it here. Okay, done. And now what is the request message body? So here, this is your request message body. Copy this and paste it here, right? And what is the string I want to? I want to pass an ISO code of USA. Let's say what is the USA currency? I want to see what is the USA currency, right? We provided request message, we provided a WSDL URL, and we loaded all the services, and then we provided service endpoint. What is the service endpoint? This is my service. How I got the service endpoint? By selecting the WSDLer, I selected country currency function. It loaded the country currency body message and also the endpoint for the function. The same endpoint I have provided here. And now I have removed the default value from country ISO code. I'm providing ISO code as USA. Let me run this request. So before run, I have to save those changes. Click on save and then now run the request. So if you see here, it is giving you what is the currency of USA. It's a USD, which is dollars. US dollars is the code and the name is dollars. Okay, so this way you can execute your web service request and then you get the response, and also you can see the response status is 200. Now how can you verify the response? So there are two methods. One is you can use your object repositories itself, and within the web service itself you can add the verifications as same as the REST services that we did in my previous session. Go to verification tab and then here if you see the snippets, you can use the snippets. Let's say I want to validate the status code of 200. So you just need to click on the status code. So it inserts the code in Groovy. Okay, so that means I'm going to validate this one, right? So let's execute this. When you execute this, save the changes, it's gonna execute and also it's gonna validate whether the status code is 200 or not. Okay, it's giving the response, same response, it validates this. Okay, and there is another method where you will be adding the validations within the test case itself. Okay, so let's create a test case for this first. Okay, how can you create test case? Either you can create a test case by right clicking on the test case, click on new and then create new. So this method I have already explained you while automating the REST services, but this time I'm going to use another method. Here in the latest Katalon, you can use this plus symbol to add a new test case. So add to new test case. That means this service will be automatically added to the new test case. Let's click here and then name this as soap country currency test. Okay, click OK. So as soon as you click OK, it's going to create a new test case. If you see here, it is creating a new test case called, if you see under test case folder, you can have soap country currency test. So it is sending the currency object. Okay, and let's do one thing. Let me store this into a response. The response I'm storing into a variable as same as we did for REST service. Okay, so here let me execute this. So whenever I execute this, it's gonna send a request and then it's gonna store the response into a variable called response. So it's sending a request. See, the response is successfully executed. So basically the request is successfully executed. So let's say I want to, let's assume the validation point whatever I inserted here, let me change it to 201. Okay, let me change it to 201. Response is 201. Okay, let's execute this test case again. Okay, let's execute the test case again. So let me save this. Let's execute the test case now. What happens, we'll see. Execute the test case. So it should fail. Actually the test case should fail. Let's see what happens. So the test case is gonna pass. Why? I'll tell you. Okay, so instead of failing the test case, it's passed. So why? Let me tell you one thing. Whenever you are performing any verification within the service, you need to send a keyword called send request, send and verify the request. So let me add a new keyword here. Okay, if you see here, I will have a send request and verify, another keyword. You need to use that keyword to verify your soap service. Okay, so here let me take my let me add the service here. Okay, country currency is my service. Okay, I'm adding the country currency service here. Okay, if you see, when I'm sending send request and verify, it's going to perform two actions. One is it's going to send the request and it's going to verify the verification points that we added by using snippets. Okay, so now let's go back to test case. Now let's save this and execute this. First step should be passed and second should be failed, because we added the response code as 201 instead of 200. Okay, so let me execute and what happens, see. The first step should be passed and second should be failed. Okay, so it is executing the first test case. The first test case will be passed and the second should be failed. If you see here, my first test case passed. See, first test case is passed, second is failed. Why? If you see here, verification is failed because the expected is 200, but I am getting 200. Sorry, expected is 201, but the actual is 200. So let's go back to the request again now, and let me change this to 200 and save this. Now if I run this, both the test cases should be passed. Let me execute this again. Now the two test steps should be passed. So it started executing first step, it is successful, and then it should start test executing second test case. The verification should be successful. If you see here, now both the test cases are passed. Okay, so what if I want to validate whether the response is USD, the ISO coding, but that means the country code, the country currency is USD, right? I want to validate if this USD is correctly validated, the response has USD as a currency code. Again, there are two methods. Either you can perform validation by using verification tab within the service, or you can add a new keyword and you can perform the validation within the test case. Let me first show you the process of adding a verification within the request. Okay, how? For that, all you need to do is point your cursor in here and then click on control key and K. What it will do, it's going to add a JSON path, JSON value. It's going to add your JSON value, JSON path. Okay, how? If you see here, see, it is what it is saying, verifying the verify element text of what? Of verify element text of the JSON path. What is the JSON path? Under country currency response, under country currency response. So let me just bring this here. Under country currency response, under this I have country currency results, country currency response dot country currency results dot ISO code. ISO code is USD or not, right? I'm validating if that JSON path has the value of USD or not. Okay, so let me now save this service, and now if I execute the test case, above test case here, it's going to validate both. One is country the response code and also country currency, right? So let's go back to test case, and then let me delete the first step, because we don't want to, because I'm not performing the verification here. So it's unnecessary. I want to delete this. I want to execute this only first test, I mean the second test case where I am sending the request and I'm verifying. Okay, let me execute this. Now it's going to validate your response status code, which is 200, and also it's going to validate the JSON path where the value has USD as a currency code. Okay, so I'm getting the response now. Okay, so if you see, the verification is successful. Let's do one thing. Let's go back here and let me change the verification. This JSON path has, let's say, INR. Okay, save this. I'm verifying if the JSON path, whatever the response I'm getting, whether that value is having USD or INR. Let's say I'm expecting INR. Now it should fail because in the request I'm sending USA as the country, and the response I'm expecting INR as a currency code, which is wrong, right? So now let's save this and execute. It should fail your test case. Execute this. So it's going to send your request and then it's going to capture the response code 200. It's going to get the correct value. But for the currency, it's going to get USD, but we passed INR. See, the verification is failed. Why? Because expected test is INR, but the actual is USD. Simple, right? So you understand. So let me just go back here and then let me correct the verification as USD. Okay, let me correct the verification as USD so that the test case will be passed. Right, done. So this is one method of validation. What if I want to perform validation by using test case itself instead of service level? So go back to your test case. Let's add a keyword now. Okay, add a new step. Let me add a new step. So before adding a new step, I want to store the output of my first test case into a variable called response. Okay, and now here I'm adding a new keyword, verify element property value. Verify element property value. What is the element property? Open here. So the response object is I'm storing in response, right? So that's why I need to select it as variable. And what is the value of variable? Response is my variable where I am storing. Now what is the locator? What is the locator means I need to enter the JSON path here. Okay, click OK. So what is the JSON path? If you see here, the JSON path of this USD we already added here. See, this is my JSON path. I can copy the JSON path from here simply, or you will find, so you can find online tools to find the JSON path of any element of your response. Okay, I'm copying the JSON path here. Go back here, double click. Let's provide the JSON path here. Okay, this is my JSON path. And what is the value that you are expecting in this JSON path? I'm expecting the value of USD. Click OK. So what we are doing here, from the response that we stored in the variable, I'm taking that response, I'm locating the JSON path, and I'm expecting the value of USD. Click OK. And now save this. Now if I run this step, my first step should be passed and also my second step should be passed. Okay, run this. So now the first step is actually performing the same validation, but by using the verification method within your object repository. And the second step is performing same verification, but it is performing the validation by using a different method. If you see, the second method also successfully passed. ISO, whatever the response I got has USD as a value. Let's say second step I want to fail. Okay, let me change this to INR. In the response, I am expecting INR as your currency code. Let me execute this. Now your second step should be failed. Okay, so it's sending a request. So first step is passed and my second step should be failed. See, if you see, the second step is failed. Why? Because I'm expecting the response currency code as INR, but I'm getting USD, right? So let me go back here and then change it to USD and save this. So now you understand, right? So verification of any SOAP request can be performed within the request message web service itself by using your snippets. Here I have added a snippet of your status code, and also I have added a snippet of your JSON value path, right? JSON path. If you see here, this is what we used here, JSON value check, right? Either you can click here and then replace your JSON path by using your this and the value by using this, or you can directly, how can you insert your JSON include JSON path? You can directly place your cursor either you can directly place your cursor here and then hit Control K. What I'm doing now, I am also validating whether this currency name is displaying as dollar or not. So I have added another verification method here, right? Save this. Now if I run, it's gonna validate if the response has USD in the ISV code and the response has dollars in the currency name, right? Let's go back to your verification here, save it, and then first step, when I run this, it's going to validate two verification points, total 3 verification points. One is your status code 200 and your JSON path has USD as the response, and another JSON path has dollar as a response, right? And if you want to add the same response code here, the same thing, you can perform same thing as from the test case itself. How? Go back here, copy this JSON path. This time I'm going to use this JSON path. The JSON path is different now. Copy this. Now I'm going to add another keyword, verify property value. This time same thing, I'm storing the response in variable. What is the response value? Response. And what is the JSON locator? This is my JSON locator. What is the value that you are expecting? I'm expecting a string and I'm expecting dollars as a value. Let me go back here and make sure that, okay? Let me copy this, paste it here. Done. Now save this. That means now I'm validating all the response values. Now execute this. Now it's going to validate all 3 of them. So that means first step itself validating your USD and dollars value, and also I'm using another method to validate USD and dollar values. USD and dollar values, right? So this way it's very easy for us to see your test case is passed now. All the 3 steps are passed. First step is passed, second is passed, third is passed. So this way you can perform SOAP UI automation, SOAP request automation. You can use your currency code, your snippets and all, okay? So if you see here, the agenda of our session is, I have teached you how can you add your SOAP web service request in the object repository, right? We added SOAP service request in the object repository. I also teach you how to create a SOAP API test case. We have created the SOAP API test case by using this option here itself. And also I teach you how to add web service keywords and validations. So we have performed validations and web service keywords within the test case itself. And also I've taught you how to validate values in the SOAP response. See, we have performed the SOAP response JSON path validations by using test case itself and also by using service snippets, right? And then also I've showed you how to use the snippets in validation, right? So hope you all understand the concepts very well. Okay, these are all very really very important concept, guys. So if you have any queries, you can provide your comments in the comment box and I'll try to respond to your queries. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon. You'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Thank you.